First, we're going to start by taking a graph and writing the equation of a sine or cosine function based off the graph. So, step one is to look at the graph and see if the amplitude is something other than 1. So, count the max, count the min, and find the difference divided by 2. So, first, look for the amplitude. Then we want to think about if the function shifted up or down. Those first two steps are pretty easy to identify. Next thing is a little bit more complicated. What is the period? So you want to see if you can figure out one period of your graph and see how long it is, and then that will help you determine what b is, because we know that our period is 2 pi over b. So we can solve for b if we know what the period is. Step 4 is, did the function shift left or right, or is it a reflection? Thinking about, is it just positive or negative? Like, sometimes you might shift it left or right, but other times you might, instead of it going up and then down, maybe you'll go down and then up. Or instead of a cosine function looking like a smile, maybe it looks like a frown. So, did it shift left or right, or is it a reflection? And then you want to try and look for the beginning point. It's like on a a sine function, it starts in the middle and then it goes up and it goes down. So, like, see if you can find the beginning point. So here's our first one. Name the equation of this sine graph. So first we're going to look for the amplitude. My max is at 0, my min is at -2. Divide that by 2, my amplitude is 1. But I shifted this graph down, like it's not from 1 to -1, it's 0 to -2. So I shifted it down 1. And then I'm going to look for my starting point. So I see, here's my starting point. Start in the middle, and then you go up, back to the middle, and you go down, and then back to the middle. So this is one period. So these sections, this is half of pi over 4, so this is pi over 8. And then this would be 2 pi over 8, this would be 3 pi over 8, 4 pi over 8, and 5 pi over 8. So one period is going to be 4 pi over 8, which is pi over 2. So if you're thinking about how your period is 2 pi over b, 2 pi over b is equal to pi over 2, can you just cross multiply? Pi b is equal to 4 pi divided by pi, and so b is 4. So b is 4. Whoa, b is 4. What was I? Brain fart. Okay, and then I just shifted my function to the right. Pi over 8. So now I'm going to take that information and write an equation. Y equals 1 sine b is 4. In parentheses x, I'm going right, so that's x minus pi over 8, and then I went down 1, so subtract 1. Alright, here's my next one. There's a couple ways you can think about this. You can think, okay, I start here, go down, up, and down, so then here's one period. And this is just a sine function with a negative coefficient. So one period is 1. So if you're thinking about 2 pi over b is equal to 1, that would make b 2 pi. My amplitude is 1. I didn't shift it up or down. I didn't shift it right or left. It just has a negative coefficient because it goes down and then up. So this would be y equals negative sine of 2 pi x. But then you could also think of this a different way. Use a different color. You also think of this as positive sine function. So starting here, goes up and then down, and then you end here. So your period is still 1. So b is still 2 pi. But you shifted it to the left 0.5. So this could be I equals sine of 2 pi x plus 0.5. But you could also think of this as starting here, going up, going down, and then ending here. That would be your one period. So you could also think of this as shifting to the right 0.5. So this could be plus or minus 0.5. So depending on if you're thinking of it as a negative sine function where you didn't shift it to the left or right, this would be your equation down here blue. But if you're thinking of it as a positive sine function, you're either going to shift it to the left 0.5 or to the right 0.5. And again, your period is 2 pi. All right, for cosine functions, you're going to try and look for that smile or that frown. So I see here's the top of my smile, and here's the top of my smile. And each of these little negatives, pi over 4, this is 1 pi over 4. This would be 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. 3 pi over 4. 4 pi over 4, which is just pi. 5 pi over 4. 6 pi over 4 reduces to 3 pi over 2. This is negative pi over 4. Negative pi over 2. Negative 3 pi over 4. Negative pi. Negative 5 pi over 4. If you're trying to figure out what your period is, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pi over 4, which is 2 pi. So my period is 2 pi, so B is just going to be 1. My amplitude is just 1, and I didn't shift it up or down at all. But I did shift this function to, you can think of it as shifting this to the right. Pi over 8, I think that's probably the easiest way. Shifting to the right pi over 8, so this would be y equals cosine of x minus pi over 8. But you could also think of this as a frown, like a negative cosine function. So it starts here and then ends up here. So this would be shifting it to the left 3 pi over 4. So that would be y equals negative cosine x plus 3 pi over 4. So both of those are correct. Either way. Alright, on this one, you can think of this a couple ways. I see it goes from here to here and it makes a frown. So this would be your period. So the tick marks are kind of tricky. You're taking 0.5 and you're dividing it into 3 tick marks. So if you think of 0.5 as 1/2 and you're dividing that into 3 chunks, that's the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. So each of those chunks is 1/6. So this is 1/6. This would be 2/6, which is 1/3. This would be 3/6, which is 1/2. This would be 4/6, which is 2/3. This would be 5/6. This would be 6/6, which is 1. This would be 7/6, so on and so forth. So this would be negative 1/6. That's the first tricky part. You're going to figure out what are those tick marks representing. So the period goes from 1/6 to 5/6. So my period is 4/6, which reduces to 2/3. So if we're trying to figure out what B is, my period is 2 pi over B, and it ends up being 2/3. So the first thing is we got to cancel out the pi's, because there's no pi in my period, so cancel out the pi, so you have to put a pi in your denominator. You also have to put 3 in your denominator. So B ends up being 3 pi. Your amplitude is still 1. You didn't shift it up or down at all. So now if we're looking at it this way, you're going to shift it to the right 1/6. And it's negative cosine because it makes a frown. So that would be y equals negative cosine. B is 3 pi, and then you're shifting it to the right 1/6, and you subtract 1/6. So that's one way to think about this cosine function. But you can also think about it as a smile. So you're actually shifting it to the left 1/6. And it's positive because it's a smile. So you can also think of this as y equals cosine of 3 pi x plus 1/6. So both of those are correct. Either way you look at it, they're both correct.